The papers that you buy, like I said, they're papers for you to make money with. You give that guy 10 papers, that could be 20, 50, 30, however much money it might be out of your pocket that you're never going to see again. So don't supply papers to anybody. The papers you buy, they're just for you. Don't give them to anybody else. The last rule here is panhandling. What you do on your own time is your business. It's kind of like the drinking. What you do on your own time, that's your business. But when you're vending the voice, no panhandling. That's another way to get your badge pulled. I keep using this one poor guy as an example, but a couple years ago I was walking down the street and everybody sees them, all those guys down in the mall with the signs for restaurants and different businesses they're promoting. This guy had one for a nail salon. He's out there twirling around the sign for the nail salon. With the other hand, he's asking people for change as they're walking by. That's a big no-no. You can't do that when you're vending the voice. But so always kind of remember that. That's a good way to lose your badge. Okay, the first one that we're not allowed to be at is the Starbucks at 16th and Curtis. What had happened there is on 2 separate occasions, they had 2 vendors OD in the bathroom. After the second OD had happened, the Starbucks contacted us and said, hey, we don't want any more vendors in front of our business, which is their right. They have every right to do that, and honestly, I can't blame them. You know, so, and it's too bad because, like I said, Starbucks are pretty busy, a lot of business in and out, especially on that one. And so not to be having any vendors in front of that business is a shame. We can have vendors on the other corners on 16th and Curtis, but it's not in front of the Starbucks. The next business we're not allowed in front of is the Walgreens over on Colfax and Race. And to me, I think this one is even worse than the Starbucks because that was always a great location for vendors. We had a couple of vendors there that were members of the 300 Club, and I'll talk about what the 300 Club is here in a little bit. But you know, we always had vendors do really, really well there. The management of the Walgreens appreciated having the vendors there. They almost kind of looked at it as an extra security guard or something. So it was always a good relationship there. Well, then we had a couple of vendors who took it upon themselves to act like that property belonged to them when it didn't belong to either one of them. Whoever got there first had the right to be there, but these guys just started getting into huge arguments in front of this Walgreens all the time. The arguments started coming down here to distribution. The arguments were going anywhere they saw anybody that was connected with a voice, and it really was getting out of hand. And to make matters worse, one of the guys, when he was out there vending the paper, he had his wife with him, or girlfriend, whoever she was panhandling. So when that started, the managers called the voice and said, hey, we like you guys, we've always worked with you guys, but we just can't have what's going on in front of our business. And this is the Walgreens over on Colfax. If you've ever been in there, you know how sketchy that place could be, and if it got that bad for them to say something, you know that it was bad. So those are just a couple examples of people being idiots and just kind of messing things up for everybody. So saying that, if you ever see anybody out there doing things that you know are not part of what the way the voice runs, or anything that we went over in orientation, if you see people doing anything you know that they're breaking the rules, your job with the voice is to make money for yourself. It's not to police the program. But if you see something going on, let us know about it. Don't take it into your own hands to fix it, but let us know. We have a complaint form you could fill out. If you could get a name and a badge number, fantastic. If not, what was happening, where it was happening, what the person looked like. I know it sounds like a police report. You're not being a snitch. We just want to make sure that we don't have to add another Walgreens or Starbucks to this list. It's a good program. It's been a good opportunity for a lot of people. We just want to continue it going in that direction. So if you see anybody doing anything that you know isn't right, please let us know about it. Don't take it into your own hands to fix it. Now we're going to talk about the 16th Street Mall. We have a lot of rules along the 16th Street Mall, and even if you have no plans on ever vending down there, you have to be aware what the rules are, just because they're so close with distribution to the mall. And there might be some morning when you find yourself out there. You might walk out there and be like, hey, there's nobody else here. I'm going to give this a try. So that's why everybody that goes through orientation, that comes through the program, they have to know what the rules are on the 16th Street Mall. So we're going to go over those right now. The main rule we have, the big rule we have, is we're allowed to have one vendor per block. And when you look at this map, anywhere else in the city, all of these would be individual blocks, anywhere else. But along the 16th Street Mall, it's a little bit differently. It works a little bit differently. Both sides of the street equal the block. So this all right here is a block, that's a block, that's a block, all the way down the mall, those are all blocks. Easiest way to remember it is that the mall shuttle cuts the block in half. So if we have a vendor that's over here on the corner of 16th and Curtis, he's the vendor in that location. We can't have anybody else on those 3 blocks. You'd have to go to the next block over. If you wanted to go to 17th and Curtis, that's fine. If you want to go to 15th and Curtis, that's fine. But as long as somebody's right there, nobody can go on those other three corners. You'd have to go to the next street. If somebody was over here, you'd have to go to the next street. So that's just kind of how that works on the 16th Street Mall. And that's the big rule that we have down there is the one vendor per block. Now, if you've ever been downtown, you'll understand how sometimes it gets pretty busy. And especially around lunchtime. And it's going to be kind of hard maybe sometimes to tell if somebody is on the same side of the street as you. If somebody's right directly across the street or on the corner on the other side, then okay, there's no excuse. You guys should be able to see each other. But if you're on the same side of the street, sometimes it might be a little bit hard, especially this time of year when we're filming this, it's starting to get a little bit cold out. So, people kind of start moving a little bit closer to the buildings. So you might kind of be around a corner to where somebody can't see you or vice versa. On the other side of the street, you might not be able to see them. And if that happens, that's when the guys who are the mall ambassadors, the guys in the yellow jackets, they're going to come over and they're going to say, hey, you guys are doubled up. We don't know who was here first. You guys got to work this out. And that's exactly what you need to do. You need to work it out amongst yourself to see who was there first. So you guys got to get together, got to talk it over. And sometimes, we don't want to have another situation like we had at the Walgreens that I talked about. We don't want to have any arguments or anything like that over turf out there. So you might have to be the bigger person in a situation. You might know that you were the person who was actually there first, but if the other person is just being completely disagreeable and doesn't want to hear it, it might be a case where you might just kind of have to be the bigger person and say, okay, you can have this corner, I'll go find someplace else. Like I said, we don't want to have any fighting about it, but sometimes you got to just be the bigger person and step away from that kind of a situation. But they leave it up to you guys to figure out who was there first. Another rule that we have down in the 16th Street Mall is the person who first gets to a spot first and physically occupies that spot, that's yours. Nobody can push you off of that spot. The only exception to that is a member of the 300 Club. But with the first vendor rule, if you're physically occupying that spot, that's yours. But if you leave it for any reason, if you leave it to go to the bathroom, to go get a smoke, to grab a cup of coffee, a soda, something, as soon as that spot is vacated, then it's up for grabs. Then anybody can move in, but as long as you're physically occupying that spot, again, that is going to be yours. Now, you might find situations where somebody will come up and say, hey, this is my spot, you got to move. And, they're not a member of the 300 Club or, things along those lines. They're just trying to get you to move off of a spot. Again, you might be in a situation where you might have to be the bigger person and walk away from that. But that's the kind of thing you need to let us know about as well. How I talked about earlier, if you see anybody breaking the rules, if you see vendors going out there bullying other vendors off of spots, that's something to let us know about. Because if they're doing that to you, I can guarantee they're going to be doing it to other people. So that's another thing you need to let us know about. Now, I keep talking about the 300 Club. Now I'm going to mention finally what the 300 Club is. What that is those are vendors that have sold 300 papers in 1 month. And I know that sounds like a lot, and it is. It's a pretty good ambition, a good goal to have in the program. And if you think about it, 300 papers in a month, that's like 10 papers a day over 30 days, or if you do 15 papers a day, and you don't have to be out there every day of the month. So it's a lot of papers, but it is an attainable goal. But the 300 Club, those are the top sellers in the program. And as one of the perks of being in the 300 Club, you get to choose a spot that's your own turf, your own corner. And the way this works is any papers that you take out of the door here, whether they're free papers, whether they're papers you bought, those all count towards that sales total. So we keep track of every single paper you take out of the door here. You'll probably keep, it's your own business, so you should be keeping track of them as well, all the papers that you take out. And especially if you're getting to the point where you're getting close to that, taking out 300 papers a month, you should definitely be keeping track of that. And when you get to that level, it's going to be like, wow, I think I'm pretty close to being at 300. I should probably check with the office. And you'll come in, you'll check with somebody here, and it'll be like, yeah, you're at 300. Congratulations. Do you have a spot that you want to pick? And then you'll say, well, I've been doing pretty good over at 17th and Welton, or wherever the spot might be. Has anybody claimed that spot? They'll check. If nobody's claimed that spot, that's going to be your spot of your very own. So what happens then is you're going to get a new ID badge, which looks like this. And it's going to be like what you have right now, except it's going to have it's going to say 300 Club vendor on it, and it's also going to have the corner that is your spot. So the way this works then is that, say you pick 17th Welton as your location, and you show up at 17th and Welton and a vendor is standing there. So what you do is you show them your badge, say, hey, thanks for keeping the spot warm, but this is my spot. Show them the badge, and those are the only people you need to move for if it's a member of the 300 Club. Now saying that, say you're vending someplace and somebody comes up and says, hey, I'm in the 300 Club, you need to move, this is my spot. Look at their badge. If you're standing at 16th and Arapahoe and their badge says 17th and Welton, you don't need to move in that case. You only have to move for the spot that is listed on their badge. And this is another case where if somebody comes and tries to get you to move off a spot saying, hey, I'm in the 300 Club, you got to move from this location, let us know about it, because those guys should know better than that. That is the only spot you have to move from is the one listed on their badge. So always remember that, okay? If you look around the office, like I said, some of these front pages that we have here, they're pretty colorful, pretty eye-catching. Some of those covers are going to help sell those papers in themselves. But, so you really want, you're going to see some vendors that are going to just stand out there like this, and they're just going to hold the paper like that, and they're not going to say anything. And if that works for them, God bless them, that's great. But the best way to do it is to get that whole paper out there. Let that whole cover be shown. Put that whole thing out. And have some kind of a pitch. Do something to draw attention to yourself. One thing we tell people to do is stay away from the generic, hey, help the homeless kind of pitch, because first of all, the money that they're giving you is going directly to you. It's helping you directly. It's not going to St. Francis, it's not going to the Road Home, it's not going to a food bank, it's not going to, Jesus Saves, it's not going to any kind of a shelter or anything. It's going directly to you. And I think that's another reason why people respond so well to people from the Denver Voice, because they know if they read the paper that the money that they give you is going directly to you. So there isn't that kind of question of like, well, I just donated this money, who's it ending up, who's actually benefiting from it? They see that it's benefiting you. And I think that makes a big difference. It makes them feel good, that they know, hey, I just helped this particular vendor, and I think that kind of helps feed why so many vendors are so successful with this. So kind of stay away from that help the homeless kind of pitch. Try to personalize a little bit. Find some kind of way to, put your own little story to it or your own little twist. Keep it simple, keep it real, keep it honest, but try to personalize it a little bit. We have some examples in the orientation sheet that you have. You can use some of those. You could, find your own little, like I said, your own little twist on it, but try to personalize it a little bit and stay away from that, hey, help the homeless kind of generic pitch. Because like I said, it's helping you, not a program, and people respond to that. That's the other thing too, is how you put yourself out there. People, like I said earlier, they respond to how if you're approachable, if you're friendly, things like that. And the other thing too is getting in the right spot. It's like they say in business, and like I said, this is your own little business you're running. Location, location, location. That is huge. It's not a cliche, it's true. Huge, 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 huge. And getting in that right spot, that's the key sometimes. If you find the right spot and you're there all the time and you're consistent and you're friendly, you become part of that community in that area, whether it's downtown or in the suburbs or wherever it is. But people, they have their place they go to get their coffee, they have their place they go to get their sandwich, they have their place they go get their haircut, their shoes shined. You become the person they get the voice from. You become the person that they will give a couple extra dollars to if they have some to spare. And that's just kind of how it works. One example that I use all the time, my sister has a friend who works in an office building downtown. The same vendor, a guy named Mike, has been there forever. He was sick for a couple weeks and he was gone. My sister's friend is calling her, hey, can you ask Joe what happened to Mike? We haven't seen him in 2 weeks. Is he okay? Is there anything we could do? Da, da, da. And you hear stories like that because people get used to seeing you there. And like I said, you become part of their community. So finding that right spot is just huge. Can't emphasize that enough. And if you can find that right spot, excuse me, and you're there all the time and you're consistent and you're friendly, that can make all the difference. Another thing too, read the paper. It's a simple little thing, but if you read the paper and you know what kind of stories are in there, that can help you move a few papers too. If somebody comes up and asks you, hey, I see you guys out of this, with this thing all the time, what kind of stories do you have in it? If you can't answer them, they're going to be like, this guy doesn't read it, why should I want to read it? So read the paper, get a working knowledge of what you have in it, know your product that you're selling, it's a retail 101. And that can maybe help you move a few papers too. For coming in today, you're going to get 10 free papers. And those, like I said, those count towards your sales total. If you